Show me the proof. Do you have any kind of studies to back that up? Hello everyone, SemiRetiredBob here. I talk about the proper human diet, all things related to the proper human diet, and miscellaneous odds and ends. Today we're going to talk about the proof, the science, the studies, and why both sides of the aisle, whether you're on the carnivore diet or all the way up at the other end of the vegan diet, they like to pick and choose studies and accuse the other side of not having any studies. The bottom line is there aren't any. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by. If you're wondering what in the world you're watching, well, basically you're watching me walk. About 19 months ago, I couldn't do this. I could barely stand for 2 to 2.5 minutes without severe pain. And now I'm out here walking up and down the street every day. It's a beautiful day for December the 7th in Omaha, Nebraska. It being 50 degrees on December the 7th is crazy. It's supposed to get cold again tomorrow, but at least today's nice. But help me get the word out that it's never too late to change your life. Drop down in the comments and say hi, Bob. Hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, why don't you go ahead and do that? All those things are absolutely free, and they do help get the word out that it's never too late to change your life. If you're returning to the channel, welcome back. I'm very glad you're here. It does mean a lot to me that you choose to spend just a few moments of your day with me. Before we get into the proof, I do have just a little thing to take care of. I'm late on this because my delivery was late. As you guys know, I'm a Keto Chow affiliate. And as you've probably seen all over the internet for the last couple of days, they have another new flavor out. Peppermint. It's pretty good. It's not super strong. And the reason I'm late with this little quick review is I don't know if it was the shipping problem or my mail here or whatever, but I didn't get my peppermint keto chow before the release date, so I couldn't talk about it on the release day. I made one 2 days ago and drank it yesterday so that I could talk to you about it today. Peppermint has a very good peppermint flavor to it. It's not super strong. In my opinion, it would be really good mixed if you make like two or three shakes at a time. I'm thinking 2 peppermint to 1 chocolate, or 1 peppermint, 1 chocolate, mixed up in a blender, poured into 2 shakes. And I'm sure there's some other good flavors to mix with it as well. And I bet it would be really good in a lot of those baking recipes that people like to make using keto chow. As a standalone shake, it's not bad. And it's not great, but it's not bad either. It's got a good solid peppermint flavor to it, just a little light. I mean, you remember those peppermint candies? They were kind of big, and they had a very mild peppermint flavor to it. That's what this tastes like. Like I said, it's a very good peppermint flavor. It doesn't leave any bad aftertaste or anything like that. It's just not super strong. So like I said, I think it would be really good mixed. But yeah, so that's my review of the new Keto Chow Peppermint flavor. But let's get on into this thing. The question I would ask to preface this whole thing is, and this is going to be a little on the controversial side, but it's not really. Does smoking cigarettes cause lung cancer? The key word there is cause. Cause and effect is a very specific set of terms that relates to scientific experimentation. And we don't actually have any of that. Now, the association data on cigarette smoking's link to lung cancer is very strong, whereas the associative data for nutrition science, as they call it today, is very, very weak. I like to think of it, if any of you have ever read the book War and Peace, it's a pretty good sized thick book. The association between cigarette smoking and lung cancer, think of that as War and Peace. There's lots and lots of data. I'm not going to try and quote numbers and that kind of stuff, because we all know Bob gets in trouble when he does science. But there's been a few things come out on the YouTubes recently that I felt this sort of needed explaining. Because not all of you watch Professor K, who does a really good job of this. But if you think of the associative data linking or, showing that cigarette smoking could possibly be the cause of lung cancer, and don't get me wrong here, I believe that smoking is very bad for you and you shouldn't do it. But there is no actual proof, because it's not done with a scientific cause and effect study that shows the mechanisms of how the cigarette smoking causes cancer. It just isn't there. And if you look at most of the studies that everybody loves to cite, especially those on the other side of the aisle, think of those associative data as one page out of the book War and Peace. It's just one page, as opposed to the entire book. And they've spent the last 40 or 50 years trying to convince you that one page of the book is the whole book. I hope I explained that well. It's, associative data is very flawed to begin with. The example that Professor K likes to use is, obviously, there's a link. If you look at the ice cream sales at Miami Beach on a hot sunny day, there will be a strong relationship to the number of sunburn victims that show up at the first aid tent. So do we fix the sunburn problem by shutting down the ice cream stand? Well, no, that's ridiculous. We all know that's ridiculous. And that's how ridiculous most of the nutritional science out there is. The things you can look at are the actual experiments that we know the mechanisms for. Like, say, the glycation of red blood cells due to too much sugar in the blood, basically diabetes. We know the mechanism that a sugar molecule, when it's not cleared out of the blood properly because you have too much, will basically develop, it's not really teeth, but think of it as a little monster with sharp pointy teeth that latches onto the blood cell and destroys it. That's glycation damage. We know the mechanisms that cause that. We can actually recreate that in a lab with a dish that has some red blood cells, and you add some sugar to it and you watch what happens under a microscope. I'm sure it's much more complicated than that, but that's an actual scientific experiment trying to take these very weak food questionnaire studies that don't account for anything and apply the same level of association that we had back when all of the tobacco studies were going on is just junk science. So, when somebody comes up to you and says, what about this study? What about that study? I've got all these studies that show this causes that. No. You have a bunch of studies that show very weak associations and can in no way talk about cause and effect. It just doesn't happen. So don't be blindsided by the naysayers out there. It's why I always say, go with how you feel. I've always said on this channel that even if there was, I'm going to walk a little more, even if there was a study that came out today that said I'm going to die in a week if I don't start eating the standard American diet or this version of their standard American diet, I would have to say, okay, I'm going to die because I know how much better I feel. And while, yes, what we have in the carnivore proper human diet space is all anecdotal evidence, there's a lot of anecdotes out there piling up. Whereas on the other side of the aisle, you can look this up, it's pretty much fact. In fact, it is fact. 85% of people that start a diet on the other side of the aisle, all the way at the other end where they're eating no animal products at all, 85% of them quit in the first 5 years. And I forget the exact number, but a great many of those people cite catastrophic health failure as their reason for quitting. Because we all know, not by facts, not by science, but by strong anecdotal evidence, that eating just ruminant meat with its associated fat, salt, and water, there are no nutritional deficiencies. If there were, Dr. Baker, Dr. Berry, Dr. Chafee, Professor K, Kelly Hogan, and the list goes on and on and on and on, all of those people should be showing some signs of that deficiency by now for all the years they've been doing this. Yet, how many influencers and people do you know that are eating on the other side of the aisle if they're not taking a bucket load of supplements? You can tell that they have some deficiencies. I hope I explained this well enough for the thoughts that I had going on in my head yesterday and today. That's what I've got for you today. Don't forget, get out there, be 1% better. Today, tomorrow, every day. Have a great day, folks. I will see you in the next one.